Good morning, everyone. How you doing? And it is still morning for another minute and a half. All righty. So, well, let's see who's all here. I think we got a couple extras here. So, all right. First one making a comment was Crew 1351, then Phelan Clan Wolf. Then KP Heathen came in. And that's it. Well, I guess we got two lurkers, which means I need to put the banners back up here. I need to put that one across the bottom and that one there. All right, so there we go. So today we did. Today is the second day of editing. Right over here, Family Compound series, Hunker Down. All right. Let's see, make sure I'm just going and checking everything there. Okay, there. All right. So before I bring it up, a little background on what happened yesterday. Over the start of it, this one starts off in Southern California and dealing primarily with just Ronald Scott. That's right. Had a brain fart there. When you're trying to track over 250 characters, sometimes you lose track of, all right, who's in which book, who's doing what. Yeah. So, Ronald Scott starts it off down in Southern California, going to meet a group of, I guess you'd call them late teenagers. And while they're at a restaurant discussing stuff, the news of the asteroid breaks, and then things have been going as they all scramble to get stuff done. And with the stupidity of the general masses down in Southern California, they actually don't do too badly. All right, so with that, I'm going to shift myself up here to the corner up here and bring this thing here up. And oops, I need to go ahead and I was doing some more editing on the latter half of the book here. Actually editing. I did kind of edit the last chapter and a half and got ready to, because something's been nagging at me with the book. And so I'm adding at least another chapter, maybe two, to the end of it here. And I'll have that done before we get to it. But then I'm also changing around some of the stuff that happens afterwards to make it flush up with the other 5 series going on time-wise, approximately what each book is going to cover. So let's go ahead and take this and collapse the ribbon. And there we go. Move that up. And then no color. There we go. All right, chapter 3. Oh, I went through all of them. I added the day of the week to all of them, including the ones before. So actually, chapter 1 started on a Friday. Chapter 2 started on a Friday. Chapter 3 starts on a Monday. All right, so here we go. September 28th. Oh, and I forgot to put the date on this one. 2037. There we go. And I kind of did that on most of the ones. I got to go get back through. As I go through, I got to add the date to them as well. I mean, the year. He'd been contacted by a very large corporation to advise him on how best to protect their employees and their operations. It was a very lucrative deal that only cost him a day's work, but because of the volume of the order from his suppliers, Ronald had been able to tack on a large shipment for his store. The deal had been 353-foot semi-trailers headed his way with more supplies than he had room for a store. To accommodate this large shipment, Ronald had two 40-foot cargo containers dropped off at the back of his store to stage the shipment in. With the orders that he had been receiving lately being rather large, he would have to palletize several of them, and he would have to palletize several of them, and he would rent a sod delivery truck with a forklift that attaches to the back to make local deliveries. This was a lot cheaper than shipping the orders via a shipping company, and he got to keep the difference. In this week, the profits on orders would pay for everything that he was getting for his retreat. His employees were getting really excited about the company and putting in extra hours. He was giving them 40% discounts on anything they wanted to order through the store. He explained that he could do that because of the volume they were selling. Most of the area east of Los Angeles along the foothills was well above the 800-foot evacuation line. Many people were just moving above the line. Hang on, yes. Instead of heading further inland, L-A-N-D, inland, or going to one of the relocation cities in the Midwest. There we go. Yeah. Ronald thought this was stupid. If anything changed with the asteroid, that arbitrary elevation could change drastically. His own home was at the far end of Fontana near Neely's Corner and sat at 2,000 feet. All of his employees' homes were well above 1,500-foot mark, so Ronald wasn't too worried about them for now. Several of them were using their employees' discount to stock up on long-term food storage. Hang on. Jack Stanton's grandkids were making their third trip to the family compound once again. And once again, they had three U-Haul trucks. This time they had trailers behind the trucks, and most of what they were hauling in with them was personal items that they were moving into their cabins. With this trip, Becky estimated they had almost 3 years worth of food. They would bring the rest when I get my tongue untied here, guys. When they all relocated on their next trip. Things were getting too weird for her in California. And that was one of the reasons they had gotten their Idaho driver's licenses already. In California, they're having a hard time getting any weapons. So on their first trip, they stopped and took the Idaho driving test. Their grandma Sue had called saying their licenses had arrived in the mail and that she would meet them in Mountain Home so they could go to Tech Assault Gun Shop and pick up a few weapons. They were an hour away from Mountain Home, and she could hardly wait. Lee and Jody studied the map of Henan lake area so Lee could get the lay of the land and not get lost if they were separated. What about this? It looks like a cabin, Lee asked. That's somebody's hunting shack. There'll probably be someone there. If I owned it, that's where I would go. And we will be fine in a 5-person tent. Yes, we stayed there a week in a 3-person tent, which is why we'll also bring 2 of those to keep food in. Why not just one big tent? Because one tent could be 1 to 5 people. 3 tents look like 4 to 10 people. Strangers are less likely to intrude on a larger group. That sounds reasonable. Jack and Sue Stanton were expanding the pig corral after the grandkids had left. They picked up plenty of they had picked up plenty of cattle and knew they needed to get more pigs, but first they needed to enlarge the corral so the pigs had plenty of room to move around and not turn it into a stink hole. Pigs needed lots of room if you don't want them to stink. Can you explain something else here? And the larger the area, the more Great. What just happened here? I don't know what happened. I am losing. Crap. I don't know what's going on. If you guys can see me or hear me. All right. Stand by. All right. Stand by while I fix this here. All right. There is a major poofah going on here with the computer. I don't know what happened. It's probably Microsoft trying to do a forced update here. Let me get that back over here. That to fix right. Dang it. It tried sometimes when Microsoft does a forced update while I'm on it, it kills everything on the on the other thing over here. So let me see if I can get this straightened out here. Dang, this is one of those things that just okay, hang on. I got to move there. I got to fix everything here. This just screwed everything up. Dang it. Let me make sure. Okay, that stayed over there. Okay. All right, that stayed over there. Okay. Yeah, it screwed up most of the operating system here. Hang on. Everything's out of whack here. Yes, this is definitely a micro slop mistake here going on. So I got to try to fix everything before it gets too friggin' nasty here, because everything's mixed up here and not lining up where it's supposed to be at. Okay, that is really screwed up there. Man, I really hate it when it does this. It really has screwed everything up, so I can't even pull stuff up to work on stuff. Yeah. Microsoft has really gotten crappy with their operating systems. After, actually, in my opinion, anything after Windows 98 is crap. It just doesn't work right. That over here, man, this just screwed up all my windows and everything. Got really friggin' monkeyed up. Ugh. All right, get that. All right, that's fixed. I think I got everything else here taken care of. Oh, it's screwing everything up there. All right, that actually came out okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and bring it back up. There we go. Let's pick this up here where I was trying to type in here. The larger the area, the more dispersed the. So let's say the word I want to use. I don't want to say pig poop, but it's more than that. And there we go. Quicker it would dry. And not turn into a. Hang on, I got to look up. I got to look up something here. Oh, all right. So here it has sty as being a misspelled word, but sty. I know sty is a long time word, and so the great Microsoft dictionary is severely lacking in add to dictionary, because a sty is what you keep a pig. It's usually a pig sty. It's a messy pen is what it is. And we got several people that came in. Hopefully, guys, if you're just coming in, you're wondering what the heck was going on. Microsoft tried forcing an update with my monitors here and screwed everything up. Once again, Bill Gates screws everything up. I need to double check something here, right here, real quick. All right. All right. So, and not got somebody coming in.
Hey, Dad,
Yeah.
how
Hang on, guys. I'll be right back. I got to help my daughter take care of something, so I'll be right back here. All right, here we go. So yeah, so my daughter ran over a screw or picked up a screw somewhere, and her tire was down to 12 pounds. I actually wasn't getting, when I put the tire gauge on, I wasn't getting anything. And the tire wasn't flat, but it looked just like a little low. So I had to get it filled up so she'd go to drive up the road to the tire place and get it fixed. Oh boy. All right. All right, so we got the sty here into a STIN, a stinking sty. The family compound was coming along now. Just a second, I'm going to change it from his to JACK. Jack's sons were making upgrades as fast as they could. Pete had brought up some new style wind generators that were turning all the time. Daniel and Robert were working on some water powered generators, and his son-in-law Jess was running around helping where he was needed. They had all come up Friday morning and leave Monday morning. This asteroid had sure lit a fire under them. Had lit a fire under them for sure. Too bad it had to bring such an impending doom with it. Grandpa Jack thought to himself. Hang on, since that's a thinking, I need to just do that. There we go. Yeah. All right. Dang, that was a short chapter. 28. Yeah, that was a 2-page. That was a filler chapter, 2-page filler chapter. And I need to fix this up here. I need to do some filler in back here. All right, just a little bit more fluff to it. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Chapter 4, Friday. October 2nd. Second. There we go. All righty. Yeah. Checking some data here. Okay. All right, making sure. Okay, data. All right, Lee pulled into Jody's driveway with the last of the food supplies to finish packing her car for the trip to the mountains. Hey, I got all the mountain house you wanted. Great, Jody smiled. Are you sure we have enough to last until till spring? If you got everything, we will have enough until June. If we fish and do some hunting, we'll be fine, Jody said as she grabbed one of the cases from the back seat. I'm more concerned about the weather. If we get a really cold winter, we could be in for a difficult time. Worse than here? No, but we will need to get some wool blankets. Lee started pulling cases out quickly. They have some over at Harbor Freight. I'll go get some now. Grab a couple there. Hang on. Big moving pads. We put those on the floor of the tents. Hang on. For padding and insulation. Great idea. She hefted the last case out of her Jetta. Hurry back so we can get everything packed so we can leave before sunup and get camp set up before dark. I'm flying. Don't get stopped by the cars. We need to leave tomorrow. Grandpa Jack watched as his family arrived with their final loads. 14 vehicles in all were pulling up the driveway. The family compound was whole. Everyone had made it safely. Tonight he could sleep a little easier. October 3rd. And that is Saturday. Hang on. Saturday, October 3rd. There we go. Make it look a little better. Ronald Scott sat on the front porch of his survival cabin. It was situated high in the Sierra Nevada mountain range, overlooking the lake to the east of his property, which was about 30 miles south of Lake Tahoe as the crow flies. That meant it was a lot longer by the back roads you had to drive to get there. Ronald had picked up the place on a tax default several years back and had been fixing the place up on the sly. Because the roads were so narrow had sharp turns, he wasn't able to get the 40-foot cargo containers up here like he wanted. So he had to make do with 20-footers. With 6 of them buried in the hillside and 2 more on top of the hill, on top of the hill with an old flimsy-looking shack built around him so they wouldn't draw attention. He had all the conveniences of okay, hang on, I just realized I gotta fix something here. There we go. Getting stuff fixed up here. All right, here we go. With 6 of them buried in the hillside, and 2 more buried on top of the hill with an old flimsy-looking shack built on top of them. 2 of them buried on top of the hill with a shack built on top of them, so they wouldn't draw attention. He had all the convenience of the city without the neighbors or crime. In his cabin, there was a satellite phone, ham radio, and internet. He had hidden the Starlink internet satellite dish in some berry bushes up behind the cabin. There we go. Behind the cabin. So unless someone liked walking through thorns, it was safe from discovery. When the news first broke about the asteroid, he wasn't sure whether to come here or head back to Kentucky to the family farm. But when the president announced that it would miss the Earth, he talked with his father and decided that he didn't need to come home. Then the phone started ringing off the hook with requests from clients for help to get themselves set up for the asteroid. He was getting offers for triple his normal fee. His store had been processing huge special orders, and the walk-in business was so busy he had to hire 6 more cashiers. There's and stock persons. By the 1st of October, he had made more than he had in the 2 previous years. He equipped his F-450 with a 250-gallon bed tank and hooked it up with a might get it there we go. A remote. Come on. There it goes. Dang. I'm hitting keystrokes and it's not moving. Microsoft is really screwing up here. Let me hit save so I don't lose what I have saved already. Dang. I wish a different company had bought WordPerfect instead of Microsoft buying it back in the day. Because WordPerfect worked perfect compared to what Microsoft Word is doing nowadays. With a remote transfer switch so he could use it without getting out of the cab to pump gas into the main fuel tanks. He had a 4-year supply of dehydrated food for 2 people in one of the buried containers. Also, there was 60 5-gallon plastic buckets full of beans, rice, sugar, wheat, and honey. Now he had tripled that. All in all, he estimated he had 25 years worth of food for 2 people. Somehow he doubt that would remain just he and his girlfriend Kim. He liked her adopted parents and they liked him. They were what he called casual preppers. They weren't into storing large quantity of foods, guns, and ammunition, but they did go hunting. They had over a year's supply of food and basic necessities stored between their home and their cabin over at Lake Tahoe. In another container, he had his ammunition and guns. On several shelves at the back of the container, he had ammunition, 10,000 rounds of 22 caliber, 2,000 rounds of 9mm, 1,500 of 223, 500 of 30-30 to cover the common calibers that he had. On the right side, he had workbenches with his reloading gear and supplies. A 4-in-1 mill lathe, a bench grinder, and other tools. The container also had his fishing gear and several bows and crossbows in their supplies. Still another container was filled with diesel fuel containers. Several 500-gallon tanks, 20 jerry cans. All in all, he had about 7,000 gallons of diesel fuel underground. This container had special venting set up to remove any fumes so he wouldn't pass out and die when he was inside. The fourth container had plastic water tanks filling most of it. The rest of the container was filled with water filtration and testing equipment, pumps, and purification chemicals. This was kept full by a solar-powered well pump down the hill a little ways and over by a creek. The creek would run dry 4 months of the year, but the underground aquifer ran year-round. The last two hang on. So it's missing. He's missing on here. Dang it. Okay, fourth container had that. Yeah, I knew I forgot to do something. The fifth and six XI. Were welded together to make a come on GARA make a 40-foot 40-foot make a 40-foot garage. DU buried into the hillside. There we go. All right, got that put in there. All right. Come on, I need to change the wording on this. The two containers. The two buried containers at the top of the hill were backup living quarters. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, small kitchenette, dining area, small living room, small area for ham radio equipment, just like the shack above it. The reason the shack had 2 containers buried underneath it was for safety reasons. Most prominent was in case his cabin was fired upon. He could seek safety underground. Sure, the containers that made the interior of the cabin were okay. I'm gonna go back and fix something before it. Come on here. All right, here we go. 2 more buried. All right, yeah, okay, there we go. So 2 more were buried on top of the hill with 2 more. Two more in an old flimsy looking shack of a cabin built on top of them so they wouldn't draw attention. Yeah, okay. Okay. Back down to here. Here we are, back down here. Just like the shack and radio room, the radio equipment, just like the shack above it. The reason the shack had 2 containers buried under was for safety reasons. Most prominent was the case the cabin get fired upon. He could seek safety underground. Sure, the containers that made the interior of the cabin were made of steel, but contrary to popular myth, cargo containers are not bulletproof. Yes, they would stop the lowly 22 rifle and slow down a 38, but a 30-30 would pass through it like knife through butter. There was a special, hang on. I think I made a boo-boo here. Let me see if I can get it fixed up here. Yeah, I need to fix that. I'm going to put that from there, bring that down here. Let me the 5th and 6th containers were special cargo containers that weren't buried like the rest. They extra wide high top. Uh, high top that he welded together end to end to make a 40-foot garage that was mostly buried. Only the first 6 feet was exposed. In that he had his secret weapon, the beast. It was a deuce and a half. Military truck with an extra 500-gallon tank in the bed and a snowplow on the front. Cab had been armored up, and the bed sides were 3/4-inch steel plates, 30 inches high. And his girlfriend, Kim, hang on, go be with her family. Hang on, let me read that again. Let me do that. One, two. Tim. Come on, damn it. Pardon my French. Oh, great. What is going on here? Say there, okay. All right. Oh boy. His girlfriend Kim had decided to go with her adopted family to their lodge over by Lake Tahoe. She had her own ham radio gear, and they had been talking on a less used sideband frequency each night. He had planned out several routes that she could lead her family out of the Tahoe Basin if things got ugly there. He could also take the beast to go get them if he had to. But for now, he just sat on his porch looking down at the lake and the reflection of the sun setting on it. Okay. Jody had taken a wrong turn in trying to find the shortcut to Hannan Lake. The road was not a Forest Service road and therefore not maintained as well. The old Chevy station wagon had hit a pothole and bounced up and came down on top of a big rock that was sticking up in the road. The oil pan landed on the rock. Okay, hang on. I gotta straighten this out. Dang. Something screwy here with the watching things. Hang on. I gotta go check something. I'll be. I heard a beeping going on in the kitchen. It's a there was a little one of my little things I had to charge up that was had gone almost a year without charging, so it had gone. The battery slowly went dead on it. Was beeping at me to charge it. Okay. Okay, fix that. All right, so bounce, hit a pothole, bounced up and came down on top of a big rock that was sticking up in the middle of the road. The oil pan landed on the rock, and a small split opened in it. They didn't realize what had happened until the oil light came on and the engine started knocking loudly. Now Jody and Lee were cussing as they trudged away from their broken down car, carrying as much as they could. Jody finally realized that they were near the hunting shack. She told Lee that they should move all their supplies out of the car and hide it about 100 yards away. Then they could take the tents and a week's worth of food and head for the lake. They would swing by the shack, and if no one was there, they could set up at it and move supplies there in the morning. Lee reluctantly agreed, and they were hiding their supply, and they set about hiding their supplies. Ronald Scott peered at the night sky through the telescope he picked up years ago. He'd gotten to keep a lookout on anyone coming near his cabin or setting up a camp in the valley near the lake in case they were a danger to him and his cabin. Now he was looking the other way, up. The asteroid was still a week away, and it looked bigger than he thought it would. He guessed it was distortion from the light bending as it came through the atmosphere. It also had a strange glow to it. That was also due to the atmosphere, like the rings around the moon on certain nights, he guessed. Yet something in the back of his mind said it wasn't, that it was all wrong. But what did he know about what an asteroid is supposed to look like? He knew about things terrestrial, not extraterrestrial. As he was studying the asteroid, he heard voices wafting up from the valley below. That was one of the nice features of this place. Sound carried up the valley like it was in a megaphone, and not the other way around. Turning his attention towards the valley, he scanned the area as best he could with his eyes and ears, trying to determine the general direction the voices were coming from. Once he had the general direction, Ronald moved the telescope in that direction, but couldn't see anything because it was too dark, and the trees, plural, obscured everything. Binocular and scanned the area. He found two heat sources about 3,000 yards downhill from where he was. The way they were walking around, it looked like they were setting up camp. Whether it was just for the night or for long term, he would have to go find out. Quickly, he picked up the telescope and headed back to the cabin. As he approached the cabin, he stopped about 50 yards away and observed the area. Then he circled to the other side and waited a few minutes to make sure someone from the group in the valley hadn't made it up here and wasn't watching for him. When he was sure it was safe, he went inside the cabin. Ron laid the telescope carefully on the table. He would clean it and put it away later when he got back from checking out the group. He got his SLAS goggles, sawed-off Remington 22 rifle with silencer, Ruger Super Red Hawk, and 454 casual with its in its cross-straw holster and ghillie suit, and laid everything out on his bed and inspected each piece. Then he went to the bathroom and relieved himself before getting geared up to go check on the group in the valley. 30 minutes later, Ronald had made it up to about 40 yards from the camp. Hang on here. About 40 yards from the camp that the strangers had set up. Using the starlight amplification system goggles, he's able to tell there were just two women's, at least as far as he could tell, as they didn't say anything about anyone else with them. Just about their families who stayed at the lower elevations and were believing everything the government was telling them. The women were in their mid-20s, and he was able to discern from what he could hear of their conversation, they were college students wishing that they'd had more survival training. They were planning on going onto the lake that he could see from his cabin and camping out there in one of the remote campsites. They could go catch fish for food to make their dehydrated backpacking food last longer. One of the women was named Jody, had brought two paperback books on survival and small game hunting. The other, named Lee, had several such books on her Kindles and a solar charger for it. But she was worried about if things really went south, if they had to survive out here more than a few months, and when the battery wore out, what would they do without all the information she had? Jody had said she'd hiked this area a lot with her ex-boyfriend before he moved to Ohio. That worried Ron a bit. If she had hiked this area, then she might have found the cabin before and think that it was abandoned and might consider staying there, and he would have to run him off. That would put people out and about with knowledge that he was holed up here in this area. That was something he didn't want. Ronald was going to have to shadow them and see where they went in the morning. However, he forgot to bring his big ear hunting mic and headphones, so he was still missing out on some of their conversation. So he decided to move a little closer to get everything to hear everything and get a better read on them. He was about 30 feet away when his ghillie suit hang on a minute, I gotta fix something here. Hang on. I gotta do some maximum. Let's see if that one comes. That one's on this side here. It really screwed up Microsoft Word when it tried to do the organizational update. It had no business doing. Have it up here about right where it's supposed to be. I'm looking for something from the here before, see if it's still there. Nope, I got rid of it. Dang it. So hang on here. Let me do it this way here. Hang on, I'm looking for a proper spelling word. I know it's over here. There we go. There we go. Control C. Shrink that down. Control V. Control V. Getting us proper spelling of the word ghillie suit here. All right, here's where we're at. So let me hit save all the spelling of ghillie suit the proper way. Okay, let me check here. All right, hang on a second here. Okay, they went and did. All right, good. My scouts followed through on that, and it still says there's only 2 people watching. But I dropped something here, and some of my faithful followers repeated it too. And yeah, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, it's stupid. All right. All righty. So he was about 30 feet away when his ghillie suit yes, several little bells rang out around him as he quickly moved back to better cover. And he picked up a couple small rocks and proceeded to throw them, making it sound like whatever had tripped the bell was bounding off into the woods. What was that? Lee asked in a panic hushed voice. I'm not sure, Jody replied. There it goes, she said, pointing in the direction that Ronald had threw the rocks. Shh, Jody whispered. I'm not so sure. That didn't sound right. She continued to stare in the direction of the bell line that Ronald had brushed against. I think someone's out there. They threw some rocks to make us. I think someone's out there and they threw some rocks to make us think that it was an animal and it was scared away by the bells. Oh, I wish I had a gun, Lee whined softly. Me too, Jody added so soft that Ronald barely heard it. Ronald waited to see what the women were going to do. He decided he wasn't going to move until they came out to check the bell line or went to bed. But as luck or bad luck would have it, they did neither. Instead, they gathered more firewood and built the fire bigger. Then they started a second fire pit and then a third. They started to get less on edge as they built more fires and could see better and further into the woods. Ronald could only see the lower half of Jody's face as she wore an oversized boonie hat that flopped down to her nose and a hooded sweatshirt with the hood over the hat over most of the hat. She also wore gray camel pants and a good pair of hiking boots. Lee had strawberry blonde hair that came most of the way down her back. She wore a blue puffy jacket and red plaid shirt and blue jeans and a pair of walking shoes. Suddenly, Ronald got an idea and moved quickly and quietly around to where it looked like they would build the fourth pit. Knowing about the tripwires, he's able to avoid the ones on this side of the clearing. With the crackling noise of the fire getting louder, he was able to move right up to the edge of the clearing next to a pile of small branches and down tree limbs like the ones the woman had been gathering. Jody was bent over right in front of Ronald when Lee dumped an armful of wood into the fire pit. Ronald took advantage of the situation, reached out, grabbed Jody by the back of the collar with his left hand and clamped the right tightly over her mouth and pulled her quickly into the brush and pinned her to the ground. Shush! Not a sound or I'll snap your neck and go rape your friend, Ronald whispered into her ear. Jody's eyes were wide with terror at the sight of what she thought was a living plant hovering over her and talking too. Quickly, he gagged her and tied her hands behind her back. Then came Lee's panicked voice from the middle of the fire pits. Jody, she whined loudly. Where are you? This isn't funny. Ronald pulled Jody up to her feet and walked her ahead of him into the clearing. When Lee saw Jody tied up and Ronald behind her, what she thought of as a swamp monster suit, she collapsed to the ground in a half-sitting, half-laying, prone position with only one outstretched arm keeping her from going all the way down. Oh my God, we're going to die, Lee started to cry. We're going to be raped and killed like in the horror movies. Ronald smiled beneath the ghillie suit hood. This just might work, he thought. He walked Jody to the clearing inside of the fire pits and sat her down. Then he went over to Lee, who started to backpedaling as he got closer. Please don't kill me, she begged as she continued to move away. Growled in his best Halloween voice. Okay, she said weakly and stopped moving. Now we can do this the easy way or the hard and painful way. Ronald growled deeper than before. The easy way, please, Lee quickly said pleadingly. What are you doing on my mountain? Lee's face relaxed him up. We're trying to get to Hainan Lake to be safe from the asteroid. Where are you planning to stay? My friend Jody knows of some campsites that aren't used very much anymore because they're harder to get to on the northwest side of the lake. Ronald knew which ones she was talking about. They were hard to get to from the main camping areas. He often used them when he went down to the lake from his property. They had access to some good fishing spots. How many more are there of you? Just the two of us. Our family stayed behind in Fresno. They said it was safe enough because of the mountains on the west side of the Central Valley. They said the government was right and seawater wouldn't make it over them. Does your family know where you're going? Only that it's at Hainan Lake. Not where the campsites are at? No. She looked sad at what she was thinking. If they change their minds and decide to join us, they're supposed to go to the main ranger station and set off a signal flare at 9 p.m. sharp, and we would come get them. What were you going to do if the campsites had people already in them when you got there? Taking a deep breath, Lee answered. Jody said there's an abandoned cabin up at the ridgeline that overlooks the lake. It's harder to get to from the lake, but it would still let us see the signal flare if they came. Go untie your friend and go back down to the mining road and go around my mountain. Lee got up, moved quickly towards Judy, and suddenly she stopped and turned around and looked at Ronald. You're not going to rape us? Ronald almost burst out laughing. No, do you want me to rape you? No. Then a smile flashed across her face. What? It would be kinky making love to the swamp monster. Muffled yells of protest came from Jody as she bounced up and down on the other side of the clearing. Don't worry, Jody. I don't think he wants to hurt us, just scare us off this mountain. Did you notice that his growling voice disappeared when he got the answers? When he got the answers he liked from me. Just go, Ronald said, seeing his plan starting to unravel. Before I bury both of you. Lee hurried over and untied Jody as Ronald started to leave the clearing. Hold her right there, butthead, Jody shouted once Lee had removed the gag. What? Ronald spun around and shouted back at back. With the growling back in his voice, this time sounding more real. Do you think we're going to do just as you say because you got the drop on us? Jody pulled out a double-edged fighting knife with a blade that was about 10 inches long. Ronald stopped and shook his head. Silly girl. What? Josie said, puzzled at a statement. Then as fast as the copperhead struck, Ronald drew the Ruger Super Red Hawk and fired a shot into the fire pit next to Jody, sending up a shower of sparks and embers at her. Jody froze like she was caught in a time warp. Ronald stalked up to her, took the knife from her unmoving hand, and waved the barrel of the gun in front of her nose. Bringing a knife to a gunfight. Very silly girl. He turned and started to walk away when she whispered, "Thank you for not killing me." He turned back to her. It's not smart to go into a fight angry. It can get you killed quicker than you think. Now get off my mountain. I'll remember that, she said softly, her voice starting to tremble. Thank you again. There was something about the tremble in her voice that made Ronald reach out to her and remove the hood and hat. He drew his hand back like he touched a hot stove when he saw her face. He stepped back a couple times. What? Joni asked at his unexpected reaction. It's impossible. He said as he slowly pulled the hood off his ghillie suit. What? Hang on. She said a little louder. Take your sweatshirt off and let me see your right shoulder. What? She asked in surprise. I'm not getting that undressed for you. Just do it. He held up his hands in front of him, and in a softer voice, please let me see your right shoulder. So Jody slowly started to pull the sweatshirt off. Her shirt underneath lifted up, exposing her belly button. It's on the left side, Ronald said. What's on the left side? Your belly button is offset an inch to the left, not the right. Yeah, so your scar on your shoulder, it's on the left, not the right. How'd you know about my scar? And the birthmark on your butt is on the left cheek. Now hold on, Jody was starting to get mad again. How do you know about my birthmark? Your mother died during your birth. You have a twin sister. You were separated when you were adopted, right? How do you know these things? Jody demanded. And she's now starting to get worried again. Ronald reached under his ghillie suit to his shirt pocket and pulled out his wallet. Fingered through it, found a picture. Pulled it out and handed it to Jody. What the hell? She demanded. How'd you get a picture of me and you together? That's not you. That's Kim. Your twin sister. My girlfriend. Do you want to talk to her? Okay, so okay, let me check this. So this starts at 38. 8. That's only 10 there. All right, so I'm going to go back here to all right, so I'm gonna cut it short here. I'm not gonna do, this has been an hour and a half. I'm just gonna cut it short here, like I did yesterday. Yeah, so I'm gonna, man, it's up to 75 in here already. Dang. Well, the sun has come out here, and the weather forecast for today is 74, and it's 1:30 here now. So let me hit the refresh on this. Yeah, it's warming up outside, and it's warming the house up inside here too. So we're gonna cut it off right here. Let me bring me down here. All right. Hang on here. Dang it. I got several things screwed up here. There is something really screwed up with this here. That is supposed to be stuff back over there. Yeah, Microsoft really screwed everything up with its stupid little thing here today. Alrighty, actually I need to, before I go anywhere, I need to go back here, bring, okay, so chapter 5 is going to do that. And I am going to make that with the, I got to put the color on it here. Yes, I colorized that. So that's ready to mark for tomorrow. Hit save there. And there we go. All right, so that's it for now. We'll pick it up tomorrow at noon. Well, noon my time, 2 o'clock Eastern time. And I double checked the schedule. I don't know how it got changed to 11:15 instead of 11:55. This is weird. My cursor moving along here is sitting there going, it's flickering like, something bad. So yeah, Microsoft Windows is actually, Microsoft is really just screwing up all over the place right now. Trying to force updates. I wish you'd just stop and just leave Windows 10 alone, like they said they were going to do back in November. All right, so that leaves us with that, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and end this now, and I will see you guys all tomorrow at noon. All right, take care.